What's up, gamers? We've got some more modern action here on NanMan's Nerd Corner, and this seems to be the week of Dimir Murktide. We got to watch some on Monday, now we're getting into another game, of course, Thursday, and we are going to be seeing Murktide versus Indomitable Creativity, which is a fun deck that's like delay, 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 try to be able to combo our way into some big scary thing like a Archon of Cruelty or stuff like that. So we'll get in and talk a little bit about the decks and what they do. I mean, Dimir Murktide is kind of like, when you think about meta decks, it's the #1 non-energy related deck out there right now. It's extremely powerful. Psychic Frog, which we're seeing right now, is kind of the main reason why it's doing so well. You've got like additional threats that you didn't have in the traditional versions of Murktide, and the Dimir version gives us Bowmasters, gives us Psychic Frog, gives Murktide reagents. Some lists are running Subtlety, some are not. Some are running our Harbinger of the Seas in the main board, some are in the sideboard. So like, there's a lot of flexibility within the list. Like, you have your core shells, and then it's like, okay, how do you want to tweak numbers? So you're running Toxic Deluge main board, you're running them in the sideboard, right? How many numbers of Cling to Dust are you running? So it's like very cool. Are you running the Archmage Charms or not? This list is, instead of running the Archmage Charms, they're running the One Ring, which we've talked about how powerful of a card it is. This is a new addition to Indomitable Creativity, testing out the Static Prism. Like, it's got the Vanishing essentially with it, right? Beginning of your pre-combat main phase, sack it unless you pay 1 energy. So you enter the battlefield, exile something, you get energy, and then potentially it's enough of a delay tactic, hopefully, from a threat that you are able to kind of go from there. So very, very cool way to kind of play things out here as we kind of get both players in the setup phase. We're going to see a lot of this kind of setup. Let's play some draw spells, let's like land go, that sort of thing here. Now, for anyone that is into the MTGO content, we're going to start releasing some more MTGO content on Saturdays, since we are a member of the MTGO creator program, so you'll be seeing more stuff. We've got this week, I want to say we're doing a Legacy League, showing off some of that, because Legacy is a really fun format in addition to Modern. Now that we get access to a little bit more cards, we can show you a little bit more gameplay stuff going on for MTGO. So that's going to be on Saturday, and we're going to be giving away some play points. So if you're into MTGO, Magic the Gathering Online, Moto, whatever you want to call it, you have a chance to win some play points, which we'll talk about in the video coming out on Saturday. So yeah, Mondays and Thursday we'll always have paper gameplay for you guys to enjoy. And now every Saturday we're going to start putting up a couple of league games. I don't know if we're going to do like full leagues yet, or if it's just going to be like, oh, here's 2 or 3 matches. We'll see how it goes. Depending on how people enjoy the videos, we might do a little bit more. But attempting to land a Renin 6, which is going to be met with our Force of Negation here. Let's exile this blue card here to be able to do it. Now we have the Spell Pierce, but it won't do anything other than force extra mana off of our opponent. And here's a Cling to Dust, which again we've talked about. Maybe there are some variations on numbers people are running, 1 to 2, depending on how it is. But just pay 1 black mana, get rid of something. Draw a card is pretty nice, or gain life if you need it. But it's met with the Spell Pierce there to kind of deal with. So I'm doing my best to try to keep track of the life totals. I'm sure I'm making mistakes and missing points here and there, so let me know. Leave a comment. Let me know where I messed up. But it's one of those things that it's nice when the camera is there and we have the extra phone or the iPad there to help us keep track of things. But this is really nice. You force your opponent to Spell Pierce something that you don't care about, like the Cling to Dust, and then you follow it up with this like on curve One Ring. And now we do a little energy, and they go, oh wait, you have 1 more turn, right? It's because you pay the 1 to keep it, and now it's basically saying next turn it'll go away because you've run out of energy to pay. But this is a way to kind of deal with the One Ring, is Leyline Binding, one of the powers of Indomitable Creativity, or running like a 4 or 5 color list. Leyline's just perfect for that, and kind of deplete some of your opponent's resources. But we'll see an Inquisition to see what our opponent's got, if there's something that we have to worry about. This also gives us information on how we should respond. So some lists are running the Inquisition, some are not. It's just, again, numbers. Some people are running Thought Scour now to kind of fill up your graveyard. So like, there's some, I'm really liking Dimir Murktide as a different archetype because of the flex spots, and it allows a little bit more creativity from players. There's not really a best version, right? There's a best shell that everyone has decided on, but the fact that there's flex spots makes it so cool. And hey, what if we hit another leyline binding here and get rid of your frog, which is great. Like, the frog's so good because you want to be drawing cards and like refilling your hand and, you know, dumping stuff to make it bigger and scarier. But oh my gosh, no, you will not be able to do that. Here's a reprieve. Let's kind of remand it essentially back to your hand and draw a card. Both players kind of laughing and joking about, just like, all right, I guess we're not going to do anything. Teferi is so scary here. Like, the Dimir Murktide list is very much reliant on the counter spells, playing stuff, interacting with your opponent, and once creativity lands a Teferi, it gets a little scary. Now, Indomitable Creativity is kind of a combo-esque deck, right? Your whole goal is to resolve an Indomitable Creativity, a Transmogrify, something to get rid of your tokens and turn it into big scary creatures like Archon of Cruelty. And when your opponents can't interact with your stuff, it becomes very scary. So we've got Teferi. I believe that this list is running 3 of Teferis. Most of them are running like 2, but once you have it and it lands, it's insane. Like, the delay factors of being able to bounce things, you know, things like that. And let's just kind of continue to strip away your threats with the use of our leyline binding. And we get a fetch. I don't know if I tracked that life total or not, but Surveil lands coming out here. Get us some more information. We'll throw that in there. Technically, you're supposed to wait on untapped. Who cares? It's a weekly, guys. It's local stuff. We're just here grinding out, having fun, practicing the matchups here. And Murktide is going to try to come out, which is a nice little threat. We're hoping for the big top end here, and all this stuff we've been throwing into the graveyard can now be used as fuel to help us cast this Murktide reagent with the Delve mechanic. And we're going to attempt to exile 3 instants and sorceries there to make it a 6/6, but that's going to be met with another reprieve here, making it even tougher. Now, you don't want to be able to just cast it out right now, even though the Teferi is here. We're kind of stuck because it's like, well, it won't be that big. What, it'd be a 4/4? Okay. Our goal is to try to get it to be as scary as possible. Also, if our opponent ever resolves an Archon, we're kind of in trouble because our deck does not run very many threats. There are ways we have to deal with it, but it is not really where you want to be. Most people have started to shave Drown in the Loch out of their list if you're running Dimir Murktide. I personally still run it in mine, but again, that's that flexibility of what does your list look like compared to others. What are your go-to flex spots that you fill? That's what I'd love to hear from y'all, and let me know. But Dwarven Mines coming out. These are one of our lands that give us tokens. Gets a 1/1 red dwarf creature token that we can then turn into something scary, right? We can be able to turn that into, of course, our Archon of Cruelty. So that's kind of our go-to. We play another one there, so now we have 2, giving us a little bit more chances. Uptick into Teferi, turning our sorceries into instant speed. Now it's left for our Dimir Murktide player to try to deal with these the best that they can. All right, they're sitting here and going, okay, a Toxic Deluge would be nice. You can start killing those off. We have Fatal Pushes, I believe, in hand as well. Yeah, we got 2 Fatal Pushes here, so we can try to go for that route. Yeah, we're okay with losing 1. Again, we have to cast these on sorcery speed because of Teferi. Now we're going to respond with the Transmogrify. So, exile target creature, and it basically does what Indomitable Creativity does, but just, it's sorcery speed, and it's like cheaper, right? Same cost, really. You're paying 4. If you're getting rid of 1 token, you're paying 4 for Indomitable Creativity too. But there's our Archon. So we get to force our opponent to discard a card, lose 3 life. We gain 3 life, and we draw a card, which I don't remember if I adjusted the life totals to reflect the gain of 3 life on the Indomitable Creativity player. Oh, well. Let me know. Leave a comment. There's the Toxic Deluge response. Let's lose 6 life, essentially losing 9 life this turn, dropping us down to 6 off of the amount that we have to discard. But we've basically answered the first response of Transmogrify and Indomitable Creativity. So we, even though we're like hurting, all right, there's a Teferi still out, so we don't have really the way to interact the way we want to. Like our counter spells and stuff become dead cards. We're still okay. We just need to land a threat. And again, the Dimir Murktide list doesn't have as many threats as we might like. No, that might also be why more players are running Archmage Charm in there, because target player draws 2 cards is pretty nice. More players are starting to run Thought Scour, just the dump cards, draw the card is pretty nice. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. There's definitely ways around this. We also have things like Sink into Stupor to attempt to return one of the Leyline Bindings, get an extra draw off of the One Ring, or things like that. But that's a very awkward line to try to commit to here. Oh, looks like we're going to try to land another Murktide. This is Cass, my boy, the namesake of the deck, and we'd like to cast a Frog in response. So we're just going to try to flood. We're going to, of course, hit that with a Reprieve. Looks like we're reprieving the Frog, which it makes me worried too. Why? Like, if your opponent is letting you resolve a Murktide, they must have a way to deal with it, and they're okay with reprieving the Frog. And that's right there, right? That's the way they deal with it. They were, okay, let's minus the Teferi, bounce this, I'll draw another card. We have an Archon in hand. Are we going to hardcast an Archon? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana for next turn, and Archon costs 8, 6, and a black. So let's replace our Teferi with our bird fairy here. What do you guys think of the bird versions, or the anamorphied versions of the Planeswalkers? I really like the Bloomburrow set. I'm still working on my Bloomburrow cube that I'm designing. It's going to be a commander cube, but it's ways away from getting completed because I get sidetracks on projects, and I go, ooh, I could work on this cube, or I could sit here and edit videos and write scripts and plan out stuff. Plus, we're doing commentary for real-time strategy games on our other YouTube channel and streaming that stuff up on the weekends, playing MTGO, like, I'm getting content for that. So plus working full-time, there's a lot going on. Yeah, there's the hard cast of Archon of Cruelty, forcing our opponent to discard a card, lose 3 life, and be able to, draw a card, gain 3 life, which, again, I keep forgetting to have our Indomitable Creativity gain the 3 life here. Let's bounce this Frog back to your hand. He says, response. Throwing the Murktide into the graveyard, because you want to have 3 things in there to try to give this flying. There is a problem, though. We're going to do double Frog pass turn. So here's the problem. Attack trigger will kill us. Combat. He says, I'd like to consign to memory. Trying to counter that, and he goes, oh, yeah, Teferi stops that. You cannot activate stuff at instant speed. Ooh. That's as like, Indomitable Creativity is a very cool deck, and if you are up against a pilot that knows the lines, it becomes really scary because they can grind out with the best of them. And that's the fun part of the deck, is that it's like a very grindy deck that we're just trading resources, and eventually you're going to be out of threats or out of interaction, and the game has gone on long enough that I'm going to resolve this and get an Archon out, and you just won't have any way to deal with it. Surveil shows us the little counter spell there, Spell Snare, and it is not useful really in this matchup, so you kind of can pitch that there. There's other things you could bring in if you're running that. It depends on your numbers, right? We're seeing a lot of people running a lot main board. Part of that is because of scary things like the energy package or the energy decks, and there's a lot of drop stuff in Modern right now that we care about. I think in this match, the biggest thing that you're worried about with 2-drop, Ren and 6? So I feel like shaving down numbers of Spell Snare is fine. You know, depending on how many consigned to memories you might have, you might want to bring more of those. Surgical's really nice if you can get it. But hey, another Static Prism is going to come out. Like, that's crazy that you get that so early and just, like, stop your opponent in their tracks there. I mean, we see things like Prismatic Endings. There's a lot of delay and stop effects to mess with your opponent. Like, that's the whole reason the Indomitable deck is still effective, because you just have so many delay tactics, right? Stop doing what you're doing. Let me just play land and pass, right? Stop doing what you're doing. Okay, let me build up. Let me resolve this to fairy. Let me make this token. Let me do these things. Yeah, there's another Spell Snare in hand. So I feel like that's one of those things that would be good to board out. Again, we talked about flexibility and numbers and how many of certain cards people are running. But I don't know. It might also be like, oh, you don't feel as comfortable with sideboard stuff here. Really, it's like the biggest thing to fight over if you're playing a control style deck like the Dimir Murktide against the Creativity is you need to stop the Teferi, because then it stops you from being able to do stuff. You also need to stop their Creativity or Transmogrify, and then everything else is just sort of, you know, bad things. But those are the two biggest, scariest things that you need to be fighting over. Things like Fable the Mirror Breaker is annoying. It's scary. It could be a problem, but it's not as bad as them resolving a Teferi. It's not as bad as them resolving an Indomitable Creativity or a Transmogrify. So those are the three, like, number one red flag. You know, we need to destroy these things or stop these. We'll just have to deal with the token creation. We'll have to deal with the prismatic endings, the leyline bindings. We'll just have to deal with these things and just stop the other things from killing us, essentially. Because those are the things that can end the game outright, or just stop us from being able to interact and play the game. So makes it a little bit tough here as we see our Snubble counting as our little token friend that makes treasures. The 2/2 red Goblin Shaman there is actually a Snubble. I think it's from the Pokemon movie too, the Detective Pikachu one. I mean, I'm all for the energy. Like, we see the energy token there. I personally use the Pokemon energies in my decks. Like, I have mono red energy mono red prowess / is it prowess. I just upgraded it to is it prowess. I have some of the stuff for the Gruul prowess, but I'm still missing some of the old commons from back in the day to, like, the double strike stuff. So I've decided I'm going to do just, like, all in on blue decks right now. So I've got is it prowess, I've got Jeskai Control, and Dimir Murktide as my 3 main decks for the time being. But all of those that run energy related cards are using Pokemon energies. All right, so energy is about to be depleted. We've got the Fable. Are we going to discard anything to draw cards? Looks like no, we're not. I mean, there's a couple of cards we could get away with getting rid of here. Like, are you casting Iona? I mean, last time we got up to 8 mana and casted an Archon of Cruelty, so I guess it's not crazy to think about. So Frog will come back. We've run out of energy. Here's the combat. Here's a 2/2 coming at us. Make a treasure on declare attackers. Let's do some blocks. We'll discard a land. Make it look like we have more scary things in hand. Yeah, Spell Snare is nice. Or Spell Pierce is nice for our Creativity player, but Surgical's there. Yeah, you really got to hope that you can strip, like, Teferi with that. Speaking of Teferi, and we have no way to respond to that. Yikes. Let's use the Surgical, and we'll strip away your lovely little energy prism here. Just go ahead, look. Here's what I got in hand. Spell Pierce, Iona, Land, Transmogrify. Basically saying, hey, you have to stop me because I'm casting Transmogrify next turn. And that dwarf is turning into an Archon. Unless we brought in some other. We see Iona here. Like, you know, I know our Indomitable Creativity player also runs Elish Norn. That's less of a kind of less effective in this matchup. Like, Elish Norn does amazing if you're playing against like a Yawgmoth or stuff like that. So let's bounce this so we don't have to worry about it, and we'll draw a card. We draw into our Paw Patch formation there, which is, again, creates tokens, messes with creatures with flying, destroys enchantments. Like, it's very flexible. Great against a Murktide player that's like, here's my flying Drake. Nope, sorry, we don't care about that. I guess Murktide's technically a dragon. He's not a Drake. He's too big to be just a Drake. All right. Let's play our Shockland, Blood Crypt coming out here, and pass. Yeah, we're okay with passing because we can be able to Transmogrify in response to whatever our opponent decides to do. So, move to combat. Yeah, we're kind of just in a awkward spot, huh? Because, again, it's that once Teferi is resolved, we don't get to interact and play the game we normally would want to. Counterspell, Spell Snare, and Cling to Dust in hand. We got a blocker here. We could dump something to kill it, but that doesn't matter because we knew there was a Transmogrify. Transmogrify. You know. There's an R in there somewhere. But, wow, right off the top, there's the Archon. Okay, that works. Hey, would you like to sacrifice a creature, lose 3 life? Discard a card. We'll discard that Cling to Dust. We'll get rid of our Frog. And I think I forgot to do the +3 again. It's just one-sided, I get in my brain. Yes, I know you get to draw cards, but I kept forgetting to just be like, yep, they gain 3 life too. Because Archon's so good in that regard. All right, but what can we do here? I guess we just flash back. Cling to Dust? Yeah. Let's get rid of your Transmogrify. It's like, don't forget to pay your extra. Oh, yeah, by the way, because you paid your 4 mana, I'm going to hit you with a Spell Pierce and make sure you don't get to draw a card. Uptick. And let's get the scoop up here. Yeah, it's like at that point, right? Archon gets the attack trigger. That's 6 damage plus the 3 more for 9. Puts our opponent to 6. They'll have no cards in hand. Like, you're going to draw a card and gain a life, and they just kind of snowball and run away with the game there at that point. Like, that's the whole game plan that the Indomitable Creativity is going for, right? Delay, delay, delay. Let's just kind of hope that you've run out of gas so I can be able to just run away with the game. And we talked about the key card to look out for, Teferi. Once that hits, the Dimir Murktide list has such a hard time. But we're seeing a little bit of some of the cards that are brought in. Veil of Summer makes perfect sense. You get, like, your stuff can't be countered. You know, we saw the surgicals. So, yeah, very cool game there. Of course, thanks for tuning in and watching, everybody. Mondays and Thursdays are going to be our modern stuff. And then, of course, on Saturdays, we're starting to do MTGO. But I hope you guys enjoyed all the content we've got over here. We'll be showing you guys some cool stuff coming up soon. So, thanks so much for tuning in and watching. And I'll see you all next game.